since we have been in power, is it not the fact that the cost of living has come down?
Which fact?
Your fact.
Get my point.
Okay. It is your fact. The value fuel is your fact.
No, it is your fact.
Has one number down.
It is your fact.
Has one number down.
That's what it is. Can I make my point?
Mahama say, "I want to see the media to so. Mumwa now man Dumsor and Yaya was so untias. Now Sapa Bandana and Fakufai.
Wontumi arrest na de bekoso. Ghost names are nipa bi de disika okromu ane ade. Enche ehun asem beba.
San radio in the spirit of unity and reconciliation. Omo aye suspend omo aye yi omo dino. Yes I do na osabeka.
Yen somoyfo nyina kwaba ebiem emra dwumadie so as usual. Ya Francia ensama ekoso ewo oman Ghana mu. Ye ba be di ho nkomo Felix Ofosu Kwache eye kasamafo Emma His Excellency John Mahama enena banwa leak information bi afa previous government meche na do dan kwa Kufuado enena ban Dream ene ketasisa ekoso ene wachi no akototwe nsem bebre aba after say yere tax baba to petrol so no akoye nsem bebre ba quick one yebe ko na afeni yakwa kotie ene wachi chama Wontumi ena fe NPP omonso nsem ewa ha baransa na no yenko na yenya botre na yentie nsem a Felix Ofosu Kwache ere atudwane koba abusia information wache pa commander ebedi hunkomo.
As a government, we understand fully the disquiet that Ghanaians have expressed, the anxiety that has greeted this measure. It's perfectly understandable because we are talking about people who have endured terrible hardships in the last 8 years. Taxes have been piled upon them. Their cost of living has gone through the roof. And they have endured a lot of suffering, which in any event was the reason why they booted out the NPP in the manner that they did. So it is to be expected that any additional measure would attract some concern. And we respect that fully. Except that we are at a juncture that requires decisive action. Otherwise, this whole economy will be brought down by the energy sector. To begin with something, it is true that there's inefficiency, and I will speak to some of it. The horrible criminal happenings at ECG and elsewhere that have led us to this particular juncture. Something. Even before this government took over, and let me stress that there's a government that has been in place for barely 6 months. Even before we took over, to begin with, we had to deal with what we call energy legacy debt of 67 billion Ghana cedis. That is even before we lifted a finger as a government. Now, this is not debt that you can ignore. You have to pay. And it piles on for as long as it remains on your books. And it is not as though we have done nothing about it. Something. This year, if you look at the budget, the finance minister is giving the energy minister 23 billion Ghana cedis to settle part of this debt. 23 billion Ghana cedis. Now, this debt has come about because, as we all know, perhaps we don't talk about it much, but as we all know, even if ECG collected all the monies due them, the money will not be up to how much is spent to produce power and distribute it. If ECG collected all the money, and that is because of the way that the tariff is structured. That is the first point. So, under recoveries is one of the reasons why we have a 67 billion Ghana cedi, and this has been there for decades. The second point is that arising out of deliberate policy of the Akufo-Addo administration, this legacy debt was compounded. For many years, a critical component for producing power, which is the purchase of fuel, was not added to the tariff. The president and cabinet took a decision that consumers should not pay for that, but government will pay for it. Something unfortunately, they did not pay for it. So all the liquid fuel they bought, a significant part of it remains unpaid for. So it is debt that you and I have to shoulder. The criminal mismanagement of the exchange rate, and I heard Baumia Waxen Lewikala as I came in. His mismanagement of the exchange rates led to a situation where between July 2022 to November that year, the dollar or the cedi exchange at the dollar for 17 cedis. It rose from 6 cedis to $1 to 17 cedis. That is an addition of 11 cedis. And you know that IPPs are paid in dollars. And some of the inputs into power generation are bought in dollars. So once this happened, huge debt was accrued. And then, of course, there's the ECG collection. Something you recall that the Akufo-Addo administration claimed that they had reduced electricity tariff sometime in 2018. It was not because the factors that led to production had reduced in terms of their cost. They just asked the ECG to reduce electricity tariff. In order to make that sustainable, they should have paid the difference, which would have been a subsidy, something they didn't pay. So it added to this debt. You remember that during COVID, they said that they had reduced electricity prices to cushion the consumer. It is all well and good to do so, but they needed to pay for the cost of producing that electricity, something they did not pay. Then fuel that has been supplied, they didn't pay. In addition to the Samson, the Sankofa gas fields. You know that in order to get the project going, we needed to establish a guarantee, what they call a partial risk guarantee. It cost $500 million, and actually the World Bank gave us money to do so. But it was not a gift. It was something that had to be paid for. In addition to this, GMPC also brought $120 million, making it $620 million. Then the car power arrangement also required a guarantee. So Litasco produced $170 million in guarantee. Again, because of the criminal mismanagement of the economy, something they did not pay the players in this sector. So the players drew down on this guarantee in excess of $800 million. But those guarantees must be restored. And it's actually an IMF requirement. In fact, some of them have reached as far as the U.S. Senate. And you've heard U.S. senators started making noise, who have started making noise, that the plug should be put on the IMF program because we owe these amounts. So these guarantees have to be re-established. If you put all of this together, you get 67 billion Ghana cedis, which is debt that must be paid. Government this year is giving the energy ministry 23 billion. So if we continue on that trajectory, in 3 years, we should pay it off. But something, if this were the only problem, it would not have been an issue because we have shown clear commitment that we will pay. In addition to this, every year, as we go forward, there's a shortfall in the electricity sector, meaning that there's a certain amount of money that must be paid because of how the tariff is structured. The critical one is the purchase of fuel. So forget about what has built up before we came to power. This year, $1.2 billion has to be coughed up by governments in order to buy fuel. Again, excess capacity is necessary if you are going to keep the system running. And I told you that the excess capacity that we left have been exhausted as we speak. So imagine what would have happened, given that they themselves didn't add much, if we didn't have that excess capacity. So that argument is shallow populism. It is propaganda that they throw in. The problem we have does not arise out of that. It is because they criminally mismanage the economy. Look, this November price that I'm quoting, it went there because the city tanked. The city collapsed. Finally, Samson, again, he speaks about cost of living, claiming that items have gone up. Samson, what have we done in the last 5 months as a government that would have contributed to this? The factors that account for price on the market, which of them has worsened since we came to power? Okay. So it does not make sense to attribute anything to this government. And then finally, when I speak about criminal mismanagement, you see, ECG, it is true that they make historical losses. But under them, the things that happened in ECG were criminal, and I will explain. ECG is an entirely 100% owned state utility. It is their government that appoints the MD and the board. Indeed, until we came to power, the board was chaired by a prominent NPP politician, Afenyo Maki. Not so. Check the operations of ECGs. Something. In 2023, ECG itself said they would do procurement to the level of 935 million. Planned. Despite this plan, they did procurement of up to 8.3 billion Ghana cedis.
Yeah, we have raised this year before.
Which essentially means that they incurred debt. In 2024, they budgeted 1.4 billion. They did 8.2 billion, which means that they had incurred debt. Something. Right. You know that ECG has a shipping department, which is responsible for clearing containers or goods that they bring in. Despite the existence of this shipping department, they bypassed them, went to sign a contract with the private entity, and paid them 159 million Ghana cedis to do the same work that the shipping department can do.
Okay.
Again, ECG needs staff annually to do its work. We agree. Under them, they imported cables that they don't need for the next 15 years. This is criminal. Again, when you say that we say we will leave the burden of the people, but have imposed additional burden. Something. Since we have been in power, is it not the fact that the cost of living has come down?
Which fact? Your fact. Get my point.
It is your fact. The value fuel is your fact. No, it is your fact. Has fuel not gone down? It is your fact. Has fuel not gone down?
Tomatoes is that's what is. Gentlemen, can I make my point? They say facts are sacred.
It is your fact.
Gentlemen, you can't lie about this. Yes, Kofi, quickly.
Felix Ofosu-Kwakye. Of course. And say Okrashi with Miracle Sabwaji. Yeah. But then you remember Dumsor levy no any ECG so. Yeah. But omu be wie ya no komo mo di wie no ketua bi. Yeni hu nkomo na entoma ahefo nso so na ahefo nso enche wo madwen under NDC government 6 months cost of living ekosoro anase abafom quick one yeni hu nkomo yi
well right way there mama na wasi na me nchahwefo na fi yesha se na yeni hu nkomo meaning say viewers na nkasa ebe my clear idea of cost of living issue but the right I also din nkomo kitwa bi wa hana yehwa ade but yekase cost of living na eye na setena we yen dada setena mabrabo no said ye esitie ya ho kire ye sika sem said esitie fa but me pese me bisa say miracles aboaje sem a all can say cost of living emma from no but the fuel prices no a part of cost of living and I account right almost koton niam free different country na omo beto de bo omo ho bra no right exchange rate no affect o man say affect o it more or less yen yitum say cost of living right enye say bibia ba from there but at least certain areas and yema ba from amount for you very okay
obi so be ka say bibi ti say cement
okay
cement no say and number 120 Ghana.
Yeah.
But first no say around 80 90 bibisa.
No correct.
But obi so be ka say recently akobe 120 Ghana.
Yeah, right no correct. Obi be ka say bia I agree. But the point is so we share or minor you won some time ago. We share into the because you different sectors.
Yeah.
Into offer sector bia what sector and say cost ana eba from in this case but in terms of cement and building materials, nobody can argue. But fair not to but so show more with digra exchange rate on seminar. They will also testify say exchange rate above from what you see ho. Now go for or more with dig fuel fuel prices. Cars ya air tonne manufacturers. But I only maybe I say fuel also at this stage and also above from air benefiting crop. So we no see Kenya. And I don't know me din come say o ma me ton niema enti se okwadwam kofa niema na okoye se yate anwane so emo no so yate so wata enti automatically sa bodwa ni no ono so eboa no and because of fuel prices na e ka say abofom tiente transportation so no say yente so mpo a transportation yemfa bi nka ho say de mre bi atwam na etum ntentem no enti say one sector edema mo odea you compare to other sectors no be jetum say abane no kre ontimi nye bibia perfect but most of the fields no wa pass enti na da bia me kase se man pani biba na ye grade na onye 60 to 70% yeah okay in this case abai no right to me cost of living better than some time ago
yemfri ona yenko Dumsor levy any ECG won sensem but an otie Felix Ofosu-Kwakye kasemu na so pa chese se eka ECD geno se jije kwa no a entimi ntua eka ye di nyina
of course
na chese sa Dumsor levy no wo se no so beka ho ye ni hu nkomo yi
well right some nkomo we e nkomo bia here a lot of education it is one church na mama obi ntiase right aban de levy ni ba no na me problem ba ko problem am we nyina no se na wo se aban no educate Ghanaians and try yen say this is the current situation enunti ene ye pese ye de ade we ba ye de ba say na be kwakwa
bara say ye prekupa dodo
asem ni nyina
eno ne problem no
entia ba sa na manfa adwen o mo say aban ni pese ohia ye aban pese oye krokro de dwon aya say ya tifu wo so sa time na mu no na aban ni de we aba bi wom nti e ba sa ubenya omo a omunye so much convinced na education wo forma omuni aban no enya adwen but assembly nyina ne say sekaban the education in a proper way and omo chire dem na Ghana for eti ade na se a anka obi ani aban ba ya adwen
na obi kwase John Mahama ene na ban ka chire say wo mo ba ense taxes no wo mo ba betwitwam because many Ghana for di wo mo mu o man no with taxes ema NPP for no kwa ka say levy o mu twam yi enti die pa no mo di bebu o man no mo say o da bi won betimi aye enti no bi bisa say ene e ba ne say ena within 6 months ya tax ya ba beto so
problem ni nyina no enti se o ba bontina be educate kire say Ghana for nyese taxes nye be se dugumo so but Felix Ofosu kwa chesema o ka kire say light bill na nanado ka kire say o de acheye right after COVID no sa light bill no aban na anyi sika mfru ne futo man kotwa wo isiji
na say
te Canada ho
na say COVID time no o chemu ya nanado dan kwa kufuado light no ka so de acheye no wan fa ncheye ye betwa ho ka
enne ye ba betwa ho ka nti eka na eda isiji a ye gege 11 sida kotwa no ni nyina light bill na nanado ma ye use o so de acheye na omode ye campaign say COVID buy no omo cheye nkania no afi na ho ka duru wa ye tua se o educate obi in this way but no matter ni pakro say de na sam Jennifer obete was say enya ampa aban ne wo point because problem no da ho nobody can argue okay why na gina chinye say miracle sabaji o studio ho in that instance when tibanyi na chinye say ana say obi anti maje chinye say sa eka no ena ho eka 3.6 billion dollars no everybody agrees say eda isiji ho sika be ne mfantua communication chire na yentiase aside that ade ba kuni communication no amantem ya implement awie ade na aka niam tu but the best thing about ye this situation mun say more na we implement afa na obagigi ska no keep on educating chire but chire mu no enye dede se wokọ na woni MPP na ko share studio na ya argument na o twe na MPP ni twa Ghana ni a ono ontia de na se no onim se eye normal daily politics a MPP ni NDC for ye nti fine time na ko tena se na chire mu ye nti mempo de na me pese aka mampani his excellency John Mahama nankasa in a video and I say a program say nanka wa chire mu so one city no problem say the yaba beto e ka say na da ho e ka na da ho na ye ya ye ka o man ya boto ho dada
I stand to be corrected me video bi am say o kan ho asem
okay it's about education no etwa so biema I think say kakra nkrofo be very okay with that but right after that ECG ho so but the one I last pick on this issue a car menege any issues that one omo mishandle ECG any a lot of criminal issues akoso but I hear to be a car obi be funny say politics ye ba ye blame one side tell be a car e mani ko go one opponent so na see ye favor the other side but assembly nyina ne say but adwuma ne de auto foundation no say one to year de wakọ to adan so no yentimi mfa blame ne ma no because foundation nye papa
na say fellows of otu kwache ensemu kwa no na say afanyoma kensenke komu bebre o senka ne sesemre no kire no o senko gina mranim
e wo sa afanyoma kes e ho kire ne kire say e Canada ECG no o say according to plan yenim say aban office bia no afi be so amoye mo plan enti yenye minister bia say finance minister e be budget a minister ni mom eye ono ne budget e de koma finance minister say afi we yen education for education minister mi say sika say ne behia no de akoto finance minister ni finance minister so show ono ne budget ya no de gina so kire say mo budget na mo de bae no aha ye budget aha ye nyintum enti sika say ne benya de amawo enti say afanyoma kings eye board chairman of ECG na say omo de plan to wo say omo be spend sika over about 900 million Ghana cedis na afeso no mo koto niema 8 billion Ghana cedis but I mean say oye criminal work adwuma na oye no adwen papa ni dressing cream say yan kra niema mra niema say ne keke but ehefa na obe kra niema in 2024 ya niema no unim say ye be use a just 15 years time ye kra be go hokwa ene na sasika na ye de kra be go na ye bobusia na go kra no ene na ye mmobusia no and for extended light and concrete light any so rather than say you be crack cables ye use so be use no in the next 15 years na dey about go
okay
right and until that to the bia you be ha na ye bo nkrofo bi achi anya say your time be kekene tamo but because of adwuma omo ye to ho no ankoyie
yentumika na yentie this video emra chama untumi nkomo ha say quick one yentie we mra ekoba ebesan to aso
John for crab is Brian Champos Rock City document also WWE yanko ko wakra hape ye mema inana Wontumi RSC MPP for the aye politics. There are people who are executives who person call election. Let's see our face in camera. You show our face. Now you see any fighting ma Wontumi. Send your man for no better than ye kwasi ye kwa pe ababi mo amobeto amaye. Na emrano ye nyina ma ye mfa nhye ye nsam. Ene say ye chi obi because attorney general say investigation ma build docket bebre in the arrest na dey be koso be call NSS ghost names nipa bi dey disika okromu ane ade NSS e wo ho eno so enche ehu asem beba ena o say ayi mathematical set Ministry of Education e o da ya eno so ehu investigation e say we o build docket it investigation ni dey bebre beba NPP before mu adwuma ye se e be chi obi ya na mo be den mo be ko akobo dompem dia na mu adwuma ye
Osubana hene one of the NDC womo communicators
of course
and say no din semi up to dwe but then I say NPP before na found the e be the year campaign and now face so no prosecution there e be koso pa and say wo hwe maseta na no womo cheche na ekoye nsem bebre any ghost names quick one you know
well Roger on this issue the common emu odepa na bebi emu ye de me pesa me chance ye edi free prosecution na was say ebeto aso but we all agree say bebi aga na ye ginan e ka ya bo na sika na kogu nkrofo botom no we cannot let it go yentimi ma nkrofo bi benefit from oman no na omunkwa nkodi na ahokere medaye so na ye nkwaje sika nsan free botom say ye build oman ye enti enei sika na akodi nkrofo botom na bi mpo a yetimi chi wo mu nyina na ye gi sika sika beba ma ye betwa yi sika na ye ka ho asem na broso ama bi a 1 city levy no kra no aba be ka so afedi sika ba broso ntino ye nyim free ho but one thing say ye ka say ye the prosecution aba ye politics ye chi obi na obi se me ntiase ye me party member I will not agree but any the obi tma ye ne say ye chi na krono na wabo no anie obeti ni sika na wawie ni nyina no obetua dia maye na punishment bi e di akire no what serve dia boa nipa no because at the time nipa ne bokro no one care say say nipa no owia o man no
no o say ghost names any maset no nsesem no nya no na no ya no ye friend na po no
of course
ye nim die ntia and before friend na po but then o hwedin ya de papa e kan die o hwe no ntini ye friend na po say na po so education minister na
right na po Pewano anim koma odi ye concerning NIB friend no na o sin common bebre ye on education right time o education minister no so na akoba asa ye nche mathematical set across the country e ho asem koye boache bidin but asem ni nyina ne say right na poko ye no no so the side of the story ne bia wakotwere na no asem ye hwe say right after investigation say kire bi wo ho na court bi wo ho a omo de ne be ko agree na poma ye hu dedi enti yen twen say evidence bi on that ya omo fa ne but me problem ne say right say dey na kwanye hu dede no say you invite you say bra ne be twere wano asem bra ne ntie wano asem a emfa nkoye politics enkosoa ufiefo nyina ne o party members nyina nkodi wachi say ye be che wakonti ontia say but me nim say ghost names no ata prosecution be chance on ghost names on sha na otwe miensa se be si krom han enya bini because omo di ye involved in ghost names no but omo ye nkrofo a omo no ode a they are fighting against aban mu benifo ne aban no nti so omo di popia na NIB na say yokonya kwache wo mu say kim na say court proceedings e sha say a but me say omo ani mu be de because nkrofo bi ho a because of omo act amanfo abomato but yen hwe how a prosecution no e be sia ko ye nyina ye taba na chi on the part of prosecution
yanko we no so as a MPP for no Oma facha ma Wontumi case no so.
Yeah.
Ema bi de ye kan. Ba we de nipa ba ko a mi hu no John Mahama.
Yeah.
And say open national chairman.
Yeah.
Nti sa case wo de no jimu pa ena na bi nso.
Yeah.
Ono so de no jim Stephen Kodua de secretary.
We secretary. Brother obia de ye campaign. Na un say abrante bi fe no koka. Ono so e shaase na no. Ono na okoye o say oni police for ne kokko. Police for na o ma hihye helmet ahihye o mu kuntan no. O so no kokko adan a ogina kwan na nim ogina kwan nim police car na police for no so wan sore ho a o me de camera brother obia pe say or try say or this ade we e be get popularity in the party. So that be in the next party contest no obetime gina no so aka say asem eba party ni mu no yen ena na ye mema ye gina mu ko nti asem ba yen ye betima fight ama party no automatically election no yen na monto aba ma ye said ye be ya ye betima fight because NDC for any adin NDC is in power or opposition so why nyere ho a untimi win election. That is the idea and I agree with him. And no crab but asem ni say so we politics. Now the show dream say obey too much politics within politics ya o political party ne be collapse. But yen nyina nim say political party bia ye politics wo ansa na obet do the highest stage no. I guess some so mote mu group e wo party nim na mo build mo ho ansa na mo duru soro. But some politics e wo party ni do so a party ni begu and NPP should be very careful. Yen nyina ye jitum say they can fight for their party members but nipa ni di boni a jitum e di boni.
Yankore this video Emra Justin Kodua de Zambia tudwa na ense o kan se mi Ghana fo di hu nkomo yentimra na yenso ni hu nkomo bi
ye wa na mo bi wo ha ye 2 ye enam aso de bia ye nkofo bi ye suspend ye bi mo e bi gwa ye yomadi san media in the spirit of unity and reconciliation omo aye suspend omo aye yomadi no ye san di omo nyina o san ka the party in your body, the party in your shade. Now, truck cat say what that party no. So, person over, it's all truck cat about and sign a party no. The bet you are your fiato. Now, we wait there for yeah, best America, and they try to understand 2016. Ebra na ye nyabre ye ko akon ye ka say the battle is the lost. E this ye anto osofu bi. Osofu bi e beti bi na sorry all night e be go bi. Be bi anya say ye kokko pa for dey ye kokko pa for dey. Say bi man fo ade ni mo ye ko mo ho, man fo ade ni mo ye ko mo ho. Ye konsere o ma dey. 2024 me ka say party na abane lususu ma se mu ma e ne kure. Asofofo a ne anim o sori ye ekuti a party no na ye hu bi da man afo o sori o ekuti a party na ye hu bi da efise na kufu o kufu mu mesre mo ene ye hia wa ha no ye free ha ne ye kwa obi a onu osofu bi o ye NPP nya ne buofu obi a oni imma oni madam bi a o ye NPP nya ne buofu no ye nko no ho ye fa chopa enkomo mo
Justin Kodua where you kitwa bi na fe abigi jemrem
Roger etoda bia nsem bitimi kire ma dwen kakra na politics na nkasa no ye wo mo ayi o mo field ene o mo a enya o mo field Justin Kodua I feel say me penasempa and I know say or a very intelligent person name or wrong field na woman enya na dwuma but for a general secretary of a political party a ruling for the last 8 years I feel no mako position for yeah or ye lawyer ni or say election no mo wi ni ye o mo lusu ye no na honhom sem ka ho enti asofofo any imam fo a na o mo buafu MPP e mo na nam o mo so e ka ho bia MPP ko position
eno de Justin Kodua nyim film
right I'm shocked Justin Kodua
eno de eno so betimi aka ho bi de e kwan e be fa so eno aka ho ne ye memfa ne se bi owusu bempa so wadwa NPP a ne sore ma no more na nkonkoto ma NPP but as to say eye huhumusem se no de grounds no ye adwuma wo ye adwuma grounds a masa emfa wo ne huhumusem bia wo
right even with that
ebetimi aye sa se huhumusem politics de huhumusem betimi awom but and decide sa
no kura wo me say me na mete ha matena o manim for 8 years a me hu wa ban no se me kwato aba wo ntimi nkwacha me ma dwen say malam enkanchema so for mompaye ma na convince me na me nto aba candidate amempe no nobody, it doesn't work that way. Right, even so for bufu MPP enye spiritual de woman say omo bufu ye na say na wutrem no e betima affect omo members ama members so aka say ye nto aba ma eno enye spiritual no ye say one said your relationship with party members any party sympathizers no one treat omo ye and omo buafu nti eno a treatment of people around the party any treatment of citizens no and ankoye but any spiritual so be catch say spiritual there but I say any MPP aban ba they will be feeding people in a spiritual way and almost sorry nsamanfo any abosom ne ahonhom nkwana omo no mo be deal because they don't care about Ghanaians omo dwen kire omo say ye kwa abato so a omo betima ye nkonya bompa ya kanche agunsa ama abosom any emuba asore abeto aba ma win election Dr. Justin Kodu I feel like baby a odine one ko set team bi mama baby a okono wa sha say elusu the credibility and the intelligence in politics one sha obeya ebedu time bi no politics no onye relevant bi
I say the lives of Alan Kojo Chematin ombetimi asamba back and then wa utro krata so ja party ni die o mumfo
the Roger Justin Kodria or fairly the man of failing in
over say good say also can say one ebia make say wo party no eyi wo ma different party ni mo no o mbetimi asamba back the obi say Hobson Abdoye say wo mo friend say omra back and the Hobson Abdoye MPP for a friend say on samra back to NPP
the right when the dia me with different idea as to their okay maybe idea me way different here party ne na manya niema bi yi e na amanfo bibuo fudi yaw say me ntoa so biem sai ni pa no say ono ate ono odwene ho no opese oba back ya ontwere krata amra e dia this special na waya ama party na say na kono aboro so a wo say any day opese oba won san twere krata amra the person feels like onye interested in the party again wo mum na wo say o brand party no foforo na ye ne fe ansa na waba ana say what ne be kwa koka na wa try panic chawo na nakoma to ne yem na oba back to the party na oba me ne wotia me say usuban ne wa bra bonye me ntimi ne wontra be magya wo ma wokọ oba no nsesa usuban bibia anye nchenji ye oba no san na ma wo ka kira amanfo say se me sa pe obi am dia me mepa wo chawo na me ne o metina na ma ni jo ho aka me pa mo se ko it is very simple onkrofobia who they are interested in politics or the super bad party no enema bi ankoye go to the person when in nkasa obeba ba so okasa onu mo mepa chawo dia I don't think say Alan Kojo Chematin ho no or per se MPP why akono or patch us baba it doesn't work that way
quick one ema bigi jemrem abigi tenase na enkwe na yemoni taw na boko de
na ma nyamyado mo ho de papa
ahora quick one yemran nsem ni mu e fali sofuzu kwachi di nsem bebre ena tudwa afa suso no Justin Kodua atrem se MPP wona wo mo yo mo boni nyina no won betimi asaba party ni mo back quick one yemra mu e
tina ma me chia hefo let me start with Justin
Kodua
MPP
okay
tina ma ene adam wura ho pa ayenne
are
me ma me wo me free about us onya leaders omunim hwe omo bompa ye Justin Kodua
are
I was saying Justin Kodua one resign
Dabi abigi na botre se sie no MPP co position ena omoba ye ba beto aba no so no eye ntokwa e wo party ni mebi jaye nti ya to aba wie no ma lusu na wo mo se wa wo pebi abetimi asan ba party ni back wona wo mu yi wo free party ni nyina no wo mo san ba je wo mu ha abigi ye ni gise
sinema enye ni gise ma MPP party ane de ma mi ka sam tiro se woni penima adue MPP party penimo bia ni hobie mu ananka Justin Kodua agina ni padum we kanse hunu e na muto ohwe mu pese party ni yanka bom awo ahia we ha onaka Japan ka
se abigitiu
ti ona
asema okay me so men te wase
me ba me tell ma
party ni benyanka bom a sese ya no so
I was say ona wa pete no udu mu ba
eno no mu ye
ti asem na okan no o se wa resign every party no no o start to letter nyansa sam nim awowe obi a we chiro tofo munim de to Alan awo wa ka suggestion go dia nyekwa se otena kan san wunu we so o ma hwe ya o party ko ba sen kitchen we
sa o mo se obi ti se Alan de ono san twro letemra no mu hwe so
na wo just ko dia pa wa san ya post jira ho ka nyekwa se ka samle ka ya twena san
ndi go onye de amunya de
ka nyekwa so o kan san san wunu NPP nga wo se samle ka mo wura Alan na ase o Alan ye ina ye bon form ye ho e di yeslo san bla ni enkambo na party dia oda dia modi di nyina enko ni nyina yenkambo wanti men kanya so wo sha Alan ma bufu dia mo ye Alan odi ni pa benefit party ni mo Alan wo de nyan chat kama Alan ni kufu mo nyina na nyina won se MPP awe saga Alan free party na MPP we nti ane ga wose wo just na ko dia wo kra wo ka na pa Alan na chaw Alan dia sibia fa chaye ni yina yan sankam ya famu wo so afamu ye yina yan chafanta ya ho wanti men ka sa nyan sasam wo sa Alan san choraleta ensamble na me so min choraleta amna mi jayo sa mi man ba man pibio
enti sa
mi free MP man ba man pibio
wan to ba man pibio
baby da mi kankan aka mi donya mi man ba man pibio mi donya me enti mi so min jay mi won ko fo
se o mo se Omo jai ne de mu samra ba
adenti ni ye jaye
nti wo ba sa kwa na
adenti adenti ni ye jaye
sa na ne man koyi
anema nkoye the same anema na to Alan the same anema na say aye adia ya pawo wi asem say wo ma me ma aye tere na aduru panimu say ondi ade na da bi na busiafo ni na akota keto ne ti no de keto na be dia me pen me abedi madi ya ma fi abusia no
asemo
enti Alan different MPP mu na wo say Alan ne ko din kan abaye MPP leader ana mo say da bi ana mo ko fa de bosum bi abreye ana sa etesebo ne bo nyame da bi me ka o ye bosum ma MPP parliament sa me tida o ye bosum mai
o se ai hunhum nso sunsun mun kan no mu lucio asofo a mu no mu nya kasa malamfo nse bebreo
enti sofo no mo no so o mo hu se no manya kasa hwa unim ye ha MPP ni no the same thing amunja yo ahantane da so mu hwa MPP de ma mu lu se o mo no mu mu ade o mo nim se o ma ba power nti no mu kasa o mo boso hwa asofo a mo sta mo so mu anemo se mu kopa o ma cha o mo bo nti o ma mu free party mo se da asofo so ka o ye scan for bompaye because mo viasi kapa MPP for and asofo nyina bompaye nyankopon tie se munye party o se ye de mba 2025 enunti ane mo se musa hunyansa ba de se yankopa achawa di sikanya mudie nyina no asofo no be dia tuni nyame be dia je so musa de papa
o mo de bre ma
nyame na nya Ghana
aro o mu di Ghana voice
sika o mudie nyina asofo ne kan se MPP for mo bokro no MPP for mo wiye mu fo sika ne bra na mo se da bi mu wiye obia ane mo hu se mafum sofo na abosomfo anyina ne nko ankramfo nyina enti sanko ko se min kan kira o mo suggestion ko dia mo se sika na mo wiye 2023 2024 no o mo fa nyina mbra o mo ba ababa adum ne kakra ba som so mo fa ba adum ne so mo so da yankalo ka MPP party na e ba nyene wo pankofo a o mo ba ya o man fa nya hwea aya jason kwadua mu person
eno na NDC communicator ba ko e chemu se chama Wontumi nsem no MPP fo ni bi fa ho no mo de ye campaign
me ka
aba no mo ba beto no
ba ma ka se onim se encha panimu pa a wo MPP ye be chena to wo de sa se me tie ni ye panimu pa wo MPP mu pa ababo MPP po chop just papa we asam na okay ayi no ko se MPP fo wie ya mu bokro no me kasa me na mentana nanado ane nanado abaye matamfo pa because me na me hia se Ghana mabu no banya adwuma ye nanado amfa ya ho wa moy eye sikadie no mbafai enti ane NDC fo ba no mo chi o ma me bo sama NDC fo we kura so wo se ye chicha mo Wontumi ni ko se ye janu ani ko se MP me se NDC fo pa se o mo taba power bia ma assembly o mo tenye MPP ni bia wo wie sika bia munim se wo man ka nyankopon metua mka mo nche o mu nyina ntum na sa chi no ni Ghana so aku se yeto a o moto aba ma mu no
But among for say and before say and this for shall no much as you yeska. Ye hope and this for yet sir I abeto just say yeah the 1 cedi ever to petrol so later back could be the 1 gallon no around 4 to 5 cedis. And the Baba to so now the Akoso Dumsor. When your friend when your friend Dumsor levy.
When Nipa 2016, let me John Mahama. Okay. Me say the Bible say me back on Cremanton. 11 ne pregana for 11 ne pregana dia nanaro mobile no mo wo se ne scan ya tito
eno dey 11
yes and faso bia maso o mo 11 faso maso magana amano o ma cheji ewai wo obuso mo mu se Mahama say ane or the 1 cedi Dumsor levy e dia to potro so say or the boss so we Dumsor me need problem.
Hey,
yes,
sure.
Dear me, can me.
But I'm on to say, His Excellency John Mahama and a bank at Ghana for say, Womoban, a 200 Ghana for so. Tax and a toss no do. John Baby, if you are my before we shall say, they say 2 years must be if you dinner would be poor mine. I was old, I be, Chicago, my name, bay. No, within 6 months, what would it turn over? Dear Papa Mahama, and I'm following the campaign paper. Or say, at 1 actually Ghana for mono, obey your no more, or the Bibaba Shanam, 1 cuts on the 2. Sir, Mahama, or say, at 1 any 11 Nando, or acquire wouldn't make. No, for sending scanning at him. Acquire or Daniman, if no, or Timuko sending scanning at him. Nasa, oh, Nabia, and only Dumsor levy, sir. Dumsor levy, granny board days in the ear. No, ma. Nobody so and yet no and nobody. Oh, that is said, Otto Petrono, 1 gallon. Okay, 1 gallon. A somewhere by 50 cities. But Ubetia, Bakubiano, 12 infants we say no. 1 liter beer near bed 12 cities, 12 cities, 1 city. Indeed, 4 city, 1 city, 1 cities are 4 Christ. Nanado sold an apart 1 gallon, 19 cities. That be 16 cities. 16. And a patrol 1 gallon. That 1 later by say. Later back there 9 that infant say infant 12 cities. And to say I said 12 cities. Infant sir. And to sign at. Sign at. 4 cities at. Anti. Satam na do ni omo NPP abani nyanza so much mama na perform do 11 cities. O man ti menye. No obi aba. O si there be me mane nkosoro. Mama na perform. Na emo me dey to kakra bi na to so. Ori dey. E to yi ye say Dumsor 11. The Dumsor 11 member. On ode kakra to so. Say obo ma ye nyina ya ho han. Because na poto na aduru ma bi ne poto adu 90 cities. 1 million. Poto na do 90 cities 1 million. No bi aba no poto aba say poto o take kura enu 50 cities. O di aba 1 gallon enu 50 cities. No de to kakra but na Ghana ni. Na wo pese okay na ne ma e kwosoro na e ko. Ane Mahama mamu perform. The same Mahama mu. Ana Ghana ye yentimi stop dollar. Dollar timi about 10 cities. Is the way compare Mama? Me nya compare ye fat na me tell me started am kasa say 2016 me nipa no kasa tie Mahama na me 100%. Nti Bible say me ba top kanokra en ton nokra. Tonokra en ton nokra. Utonokra o ye kontomponi. Enti ane Mahama ye niema we ya. Me tena maya na atum say me NPP ni anti the papa ne ye no me ye na atum hwe otu 150 cities mo sana na lo so no mo ja san patro ne ye say NPP fo na mo kasa bebrebe na ye media ade na no de ba ya na Ghana fo bose like ye ya say right na o ko parliament kan NPP ba ye dino parliament o ye dum light so won ahwefo nka ye dum light ama ne Mahama se me ba storm 1 city me dia to ayi sport roso mumwa ya na o man Dumsor anja ya wo se wonti ase na o sa pa abanda da ne dia fa ko fa me edro ha me fa ho sa ko fa dan for yen share anu nti na de bia je se party do ba bo mo na sie je to na Dumsor na anye ya obe de Dumsor anye ya the same thing me jina ba bia me jina Ghana na me jina party bia na mo se Muhammad de oye ne na me bo na baso e de chi ase ya me sa ba condemn no You at 2 no ye.
Wait a year. And go beer. And I draw a crab. Meaning, just support you over Sabbath. And the ever from the wood emphasize every system citizen. And there be a Cassandra NPP person can do 20, 1 liter can do 20. On my far 1 gallon 14 cities. And on what he could do 90, 80 no Majano Honor Solid. On my fan 14. No, be a sad year through ever from no send me the talk a crabia so in tears. I didn't know and do pepper than Sunday air. And no, NPP force so many mass and Biomaka. I dear NDC by yen, mental 100% no million. And name a bush Mahama Shai Ghana for me, or Philip Papa. Failing or failing or failing? Yes. Nanado, but so not do so starting. The Bosha Mahama Shai Ghana for or failing or failure. I mean, Mahama has said that, yeah, failing my name Basro. Now, a better Ubada Sade a more. One bag asadu where 3 million formula one inji. Anybody. And that Sato wake a cray. And that's so now so on Tias again out here. One casa driver near was so on Tias cannot correct. No, first not to put to one gallon thing. Would a one casa cannot driver near old tea me tea. Sat them not Nanado Muppers not to put to one gallon thing. Now, what do you drink now, Sika? And never Panama never for Magana your home to your bar. No, the 2 o'clock when you can grab you. Men guess the by almost say, now I'm going almost president of Petro Power. My matter at war. Way. Not to a tax. That was so petrol. Set to one whatever to your mind. Okay. Yeah, minister, tax with a tax. Okay. Not tax in the tree. Okay, sir. Maybe I did to minister at your mind. Oh, God, to a minister, Matt, one if you now can. I'm beside a man as your president. The Asamati, young cannot let you draw for. Who comes on the strike now? We say no. I want to see no credit. NPP. I mean, cannot let you draw for. Omupa, Mahama need to on free. The Potronia. So Omupa, so Mopanista. And Munkatra Mahana saw Montiasia. So almost a moment into only problem. Once I asked the airport. Mamma, Tisu Abba. Monteso Cram, person better so. I am in custom with Mahama. Mahama, we education, who are some there, we one yadi. Are one yadi, are no, so the Babano. Oh, train Ghana for you now, man, but I answer all the Abba. One tray. Say, oh, we are made by me, you we are made the way about what you mean, one tray. And once you die, what is all the Abba? Where you had a Mahama on me, but tell me, Yanya to move. We are my fire. I am a boy. I do a chair my council. I had now so medication because I was in a urgent. I just said, Dumsor, I know I did. I was the woman so by side, country Mount Coff for mother work and churches as I do when you ever. Wait, we grant you what you say, Mahama said to no, Adam would Dumsor that so hot that. Yet they felt and knew what so yes, I was so young. Mahama never do I also. Okay. I shall for the mercy. I begin at 10 and can ever sub a beam. I cry for you now.